Hi, I'm Kelly Patrick, and this is the Resilient Grove. This is our gathering place for honest conversations about healing, resilience, and the courage it takes to grow through life's hardest seasons. Let's take a moment before we begin. I invite you all to join us. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Make yourself comfortable and let's get started. Okay, all right, let's start at the beginning. You wanted to give back to your church, not in a monetary way, but through your own gifts. They agreed, and you've been there for several years. How did you initially pitch the idea to church leadership that you wanted to teach yoga?
Well, I've been teaching out in the community for a long time, and I teach silver sneakers out there too, and there is a huge group of seniors out in the community that love to go to classes. And at the church I was at, there was plenty of room for people to spread out and take the class. It was a comfortable environment, and so I thought this would be a good place to maybe bring a senior class to the church. I went and talked to the pastor, and he seemed to think it was an okay idea. We started out with only 3 people, but it grew in a year almost to 40 people. And we did exercises that were good for seniors. You know, we built up their strength, we made them a little bit more flexible, we invited both male and females to come in, and I tried to make it a class that was fun and people looked forward to coming in and that they could actually socialize in.
They had told you that you had to name it, you couldn't name it yoga. What did you have to name it?
Right. I was told I could not name it yoga, chair yoga, and I was a little bit miffed about that.
Did they explain why?
Yeah, they did explain why. They said that they don't really approve of the word yoga, and it would be best if I named it chair exercise instead.
Any explanation beyond they don't approve of the word yoga?
I did tell him what I did in the class, but the pastor still said there is people in the church that have an aversion to the word yoga, so it would be better received if we just used chair exercise.
Okay, and so you did that you taught for several years, you said, right? So then out of the blue, you received a text. Was it from that same pastor or a different one?
It was from that same pastor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that someone had complained about your class being too new age. What went through your mind when you got that text?
Well, first of all, I didn't know what New Age really meant or what he meant by New Age or that person, and that person never gave any specifics as to what was New Age. So I invited him to come and sit in the class to see, what he thought, and he said, no, that's not necessary. I trust you. Just, do what you're doing. And, I think because it was just one person that complained, we were going to let it go at that.
He didn't give any explanation of what New Age to him meant or what this person said meant? Nothing like that?
No, because it was a she. She didn't specify either. So I guess I'm not sure if this was done over the phone or if it was in person or however that conversation went.
So what the conversation you had with the pastor was all through text?
All through usually text or phone call, yeah.
So did he give you any specifics of how to teach the class or no?
No, not at all.
Just brought to your attention that there's somebody complained about being New Age, but no explanation past that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So after that happened, did you have a feeling it would escalate, or did you think it was like a done deal?
I thought it was a done deal. It was only one person. I didn't know who the person was. At that point in time, there was over 40 people coming to the class.
And you hadn't heard, nobody complained, nobody said anything to you?
Nobody complained. Nobody came up to me afterwards. So I just let it go, and I just continued to teach. People continued to come. They continued to say how much they enjoyed the class.
So you just went right back to your daily thing? It changed nothing in your class?
Changed nothing in my class.
Okay. So a month later, the same pastor texts you again, asking you this time to make an appointment with him. So through that, was that a text, right? So through the text, did you offer him to come to class again?
Every time I talked with somebody, I always
and
said.
So he said no, right?
He said no, and I says, well, I'm going to come in and we're going to talk about this.
All right, so go ahead and share that story.
So before I went in, I asked my husband to come with me because I didn't feel comfortable going and speaking to someone and not having somebody familiar with me to, just be my,
So already you kind of just felt something was off.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I could tell by the tone of his voice on the phone also that he was more concerned this time. And so I thought, well, this is a fairly strict evangelical church. I'm sure I'm going to hear some things. So I wanted somebody to come in and be my second listener for me in case I wasn't getting it or whatever. So I brought my husband in, and the beginning of the conversation was pretty normal. We just asked how we were doing, what's going on, how is life going, between, my husband and I.
Like small talk type of stuff?
Yeah, small talk type stuff.
He wanted to get you comfortable.
Yeah, he wanted to get me comfortable. I was so uncomfortable when I was sitting there, period.
I can imagine. And you had mentioned that he was kind of like saddling up with your husband more than you. Yeah,
he was, talking sports with my husband. He was, everything was small talk. So he was, he was making that atmosphere a little bit more comfortable for him and for my husband, but I still felt really icky when I was in there. And then he started to talk to me about this New Age stuff. He goes, so, I hear there's still some New Age stuff happening in your class. And I said, well, tell me what you think New Age stuff is, because I'm not quite sure what all of you are talking about. And he said, well, this person's very concerned about the word namaste, and so are we. Because it's Hindu. It comes from Hindu religion. And I said, well, it's just a word.
So mind you, you've been using the same word for the last 3 years teaching.
Oh yeah, right. We closed with that class all the time, and everybody said it nice and loud. And I explained to them what the word was when they were in there. That it was.
So you got to know that it was the person complained probably wasn't a regular of yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, continue. So he says that they had a problem with the word namaste.
The word namaste, and then he says, when I looked up the videotape, and I said, oh, videotape? I go, I didn't know there was a video camera on there. He goes, well, I didn't either. And I said, he says, but since there was, I decided to see if I could look up one of your classes. And he looked up my class, and he said, I said, well, did you watch the whole thing? He goes, yes, I did. He goes, everything was okay until the ending. Everything was fine. I didn't make any inferences to any warrior poses or things like that. But when you went to the ending, you did things that concerned me and concerned this other woman, that you said something like, the divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Don't you know that Jesus can only be the divine light? And I said, I believe that we have divine light in our own bodies. We are here because of Jesus, so if we can't respect one another's own divine light, then what is wrong with that? Oh, those are Hindu words. You're going to crack open a soul of somebody that is weak, and you're going to bring evil into their body. And
how did you maintain your composure through this?
Well, I kind of laughed a little bit.
Did you really?
Yes, because
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm floored now listening to this. Yes. How did your husband react through this?
Oh, he just kind of looked at me too, and
I had to admit, was he shocked?
Yeah. And I said to him, what do you mean I'm going to crack open somebody's soul? Well, if they're weak in their religion, demons can come through into that person's soul, and they can help them resist what the religion is and take more.
He's saying this out loud.
Oh yeah, and take more of what the yoga is and replace that stuff in their body so that they're not Christian anymore.
Spoken like a true ignorant person.
Yeah. And I said to him out loud, I says, I think that sounds very narrow-minded.
Good for you.
Well, yeah, I was...
How did he react to that?
I was angry because I went to yoga teacher training.
Yeah.
I studied all that stuff.
Like, we know this stuff.
Yeah,
like, you're not going to tell us, like, yeah.
And he goes, well, let me read you some Bible verses. And he had these Bible verses scripted in his Bible, and he read me these verses, and you could replace these verses with anything. So because yoga is never ever mentioned in the Bible, he found these Bible verses and he was making them be like
relate them
to yoga.
Yeah.
Which I really hate because you can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, people didn't even talk about the word yoga in those days. So I was very angry about that.
What was the energy like in the room? Like, what was your intuition telling you?
Well, I was starting to tear up after a while because I was so frustrated with the fact that he was, number one, he was the authority because he was the lead, one of the lead pastors in the church, and he was going to tell me what I didn't know about religion.
Yeah.
And
you'd mentioned like you felt your soul was attacked.
Oh, yeah. And that's why it made me tear up because I thought, I am not doing any of this to hurt people. I did it with like this purest thing in my heart that I want to help people and I want to allow them to come to a class and not have to pay any money for it.
And breathe and move their body.
Right.
Let them age gracefully.
Right.
And here he is twisting the narrative.
Right, exactly. I wanted them to be able to socialize, enjoy themselves, and he was making a whole big thing about a few words at the end of class. And I felt attacked.
How did that meeting end?
It did not end very well because he started saying, well, how often do you go to church? How often do you pray? How often do you do this? And I thought, wow. So now you're going to, not only, the class I'm teaching, but you're coming and you're attacking me.
I was just about to say, because you were probably standing up for yourself, right?
Right.
So what does he have to do? Attack.
Yeah.
Deflect and attack.
Oh, yeah.
Was there a moment that you, like, cried, or was it just, like, kind of tears in your eyes?
There's tears showing in my eyes. I'm a pretty emotional person, so when I feel like I'm being attacked,
and it's almost like an immediate reaction.
Right. They just needed to go there, and so
he's attacking you, asking you like how much you pray. Then what?
And when I explained to him why, I wasn't attending church regularly anymore, and et cetera, then he went on to my husband and said, I think we could clear this up pretty easy. Why don't you just take out those words at the end that this person, seems to think are the New Age words or New Age things, and then you could just leave that stuff out.
So you looked at your husband to say this?
And then I looked at my husband and I said, no, this is my authentic teaching.
So he's trying to bypass you, look at your husband, and expect your husband to tell you what to do?
Right. And I got a little angry at my husband because, he didn't know where I was going with this. And then when he saw how stern I was at the fact that I'm not going to take this out. This is part of something that everybody enjoys.
One person. He's doing this because one person?
One person, yeah.
And if it was such an issue, you would have thought, like, all these years you've been teaching this class the same exact way, and now all of a sudden it's a big deal.
Right.
So did he tell you that you eventually had to stop teaching then?
Well, he said, well, we're kind of at a crossroad here. What do you want to do? And I said to him, truly, I can't come in here and teach this class if you're going to direct me how to teach it when I'm not doing anything wrong and the people are seeming to enjoy it. Why do I need to stop? And he says, well, we just can't have any Hindu in this church.
again, it was never an issue for the last 3 years you were teaching.
And I said to him, I looked right at him, I said, you know, on the walls downstairs in the room that I teach are all these foreign words that are people's foreign languages. Why are you now objecting to Hindu here? How do you know that it's harmful?
And where did he learn that by saying, I honor the divine light in you, you honor the divine light in me, that is some sort of opening for demons to come in?
Bible verses. There's a Bible verse that he told me that if people are, this is not verbatim, but if people are weak in their soul, if things come around that look good to them and they want to do that could be harmful to them, if they're weak in their soul, they can receive that, and that will take the place of the religion inside of them. I think it's kind of a
stretch.
Yeah. A big stretch.
That's spiritual manipulation wrapped in moral righteousness. You tried to give something so beautiful, and for it to be manipulated and rewritten into something that is terrible. I always go back to it breathing and moving. Literally, that's all we do is teach people to breathe, move, and feel their body. And then the people who judge us like this pastor clearly has never walked into a yoga class before, or they would know that, that's not what we do. So how has this affected your faith, your view in that particular church?
Well, I left the church, which is probably a good thing. And then I also did a whole lot of research myself by just looking at these type of churches in our community and in the United States, and find that they're not good. They're not good for people. They are very...
Would you consider it like a mega church?
Oh, huge mega church.
Okay.
Big mega church, several pastors, many activities and things for people to do there. It's almost like your whole other life outside of your home. And they make that available for everybody in a very easy way. But what people don't see is the manipulation around, the manipulation of having to go to all these classes, learning about yoga in their small ministry classes and finding out it's a bad thing for you.
Wow, they really are writing the script, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
They write their own script.
Right. Allowing, homosexuals to come to your church, but don't approve of the way they behave in their lives. There is
I noticed that they advertise the rainbow flags out in their yard. So that's a way to get people in, and then they want to pray the gay away.
Right. These mega churches were responsible for many of the gay people actually having horrible lives because the
judgment, the criticism, the shame.
The shame, yes.
So after you left the church, did you hear from that pastor again?
Nope. Not at all. He never called me to see how I was doing. He did show up at the next Wednesday when the people came in because I refused to go.
The next class?
Yeah. But no.
Do you know what he said to the class, what he told them?
Oh, yeah. Mainly what he told me. He had handouts with Bible verses in them. Why yoga is bad for you.
Wow.
He did an question and answer session with people just couldn't believe what was coming out of his mouth, and they were very upset about the fact that he was telling them that they were doing something bad.
Wrong.
Yeah, they literally gave him a hard time.
Good.
Yeah.
At what point was he sending you those conversion videos?
The few days after I left that meeting, I got one in my
He texted it to you.
He texted it to me, and it was videos from former women who were yoga teachers in churches, and how they gave up teaching yoga because they found out it was horrible and evil.
So he's sending you these videos through text?
Yes.
And then you eventually had to tell him to stop?
Yes. He sent another group the following week. And I just kept them, though, because I just wanted to have something in case he wouldn't stop.
So you had mentioned that the church initially felt so warm and welcoming, and that's why you joined. At what point did you start seeing the facades and the manipulation? Was it because of this incident?
Well, I think when I joined the church, there was a checkoff list of everything that you had to do as a member of the church. And I remember going through and feeling kind of, I don't know if I could check this off. I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I could do this. Then I thought, well, maybe I'll learn, maybe I'll see things and it'll help me grow or whatever. But there was things, I was not going to give up my yoga. There was nothing in the checkoff list that says that you couldn't do yoga. And I have to think that there's many people out there in that church that are doing yoga on the outside.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, I want to go back to something you had mentioned earlier. But first, the room that you were teaching these chair exercise classes was the Sunday school room?
Yeah, it was a Sunday school class for the junior high kids.
Okay,
yeah.
So you had mentioned that you offered to have the pastor come to your class several times, and he kept saying no. And then during the meeting, he brings up that he wants to videotape. That was new to you.
Correct.
You had never known. You had been teaching in this room for years and never knew that it was recorded.
Right. I never knew that there was a recording going on.
No signs posted anywhere?
Never saw a sign anywhere, yeah.
None of the members knew it was being recorded?
No, because one thing that I am very cognizant about is taking pictures of people in classes.
Same.
And or taping anybody or doing any of that. So I always, if I was going to take a picture, I always got permission from people to take the picture.
So when you were in that meeting and he mentioned that he watched the videotape, he said he didn't know there was a videotape in the room?
He said he didn't know. I find that hard to believe.
Same. How would he know to go reference the video if he didn't know it was being video recorded?
Well, the only thing I could think of is somebody told him that everything that is in there is videotaped, and he went back to...
So he's a pastor of the church and has no idea that that room is being recorded?
Correct, yes.
Huh, interesting. So you mentioned in the beginning with the checklist, did you feel weird at that time? Do you remember feeling weird, or are you just now reflecting feeling weird, or you remember feeling weird?
I remember feeling weird, yeah.
Were there any other red flags that you now see now that you kind of missed or skipped during those years that you remember?
Some of the services that I went to, I'm a real, I have a lot of gay friends, and so when that was always brought up with me, that really bothered me. If he mentioned things like that, there was a thing about abortion one time that came up in the thing, and I had invited my sister-in-law and my brother to come to the church for the first time, and they were just, they said, "Ooh, that was kind of a crazy one to come to," and I felt the same too. I felt very uncomfortable. So when you're in one of those
services, do you look around like everybody's believing this stuff, like everybody listens to it?
I think there is.
Or do you think there's a lot of people like you, where you're there, but like in the back of your mind, you're just like, "Woo, that's a little rough"?
I think religion in general is fearful for people. They're afraid. They're afraid to make their opinion known because they're afraid they're going to go to hell. They're afraid that somebody's going to talk about them in the church. I have always been able to, and sometimes not always the best time, to defend myself or say what I really feel, because I think that's so important.
It is so important, and I'm very happy that you decided to use your voice, even if it's not video, because of the fear of retaliation, which I totally honor, because I know that's a very valid and real thing, especially when these mega churches. So if nobody talks, nothing changes.
Exactly.
So somebody has to be the one that talks. I want to reference too, I was not raised religious, and I wanted to learn. My ex-husband and his family were all raised Catholic, and I had told you what their past was. So I wanted to dive in to learn Catholicism. So Catholic churches offer these RCIA classes. And so I went to the classes, and I went in with an open mind. I wanted to learn. but I also wanted to make sure I honored what I value and what I believe. And so it was all fine, learning about the history of Christianity until we got to the point where we had to talk about homosexuality. And he has a nun come in, the priest has a nun come in to do this class. And she says that Catholics are very, very welcoming to anybody who is homosexual. However, they're just not allowed to have sex. So I'm sitting there in my mind thinking, you're supposed to love everybody, right?
Right.
They're homosexual, you love them. They're just a human, just like you. The only difference is, because I'm heterosexual, I'm allowed to have sex. They're not. So I'm sitting there in my mind thinking, okay, let me put in a conversation with me and a homosexual, and I say, I love you, right? But you're not allowed to have sex with anybody, just me.
Right.
How is that even how is that real? How is that real?
Right, and a homosexual is going to do what their body tells them to do.
Exactly, and I'm going to do what my body tells me to do.
Right.
And there's no difference in that, right? So how could I look at somebody and say, you're not allowed to have sex, but I am?
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. So I agree with all of that. So anyway, sadly, when people speak their truth, in controlling systems like this, there is retaliation. Did you ever see any of that in the church? Did you ever hear stories or? So to reiterate, we're doing this audio, no video, because of retaliation, and that we won't speak about it, but you have seen retaliation from this church. So let's just finish this up. If there is somebody out there that is maybe a member of the church or perhaps was a member of the church and is afraid to tell their story, speak to them.
I think you have to pull out that strength from yourself and really learn to speak what you really believe. If you don't do that, you're going to walk through life feeling like I would have, I should have, I could have, but I didn't. And that is the worst thing.
It's the worst feeling
ever. Yeah. You will never, ever move past what this is, things like this can do to you.
And there are ways to safely tell your story, and this is one of them, using audio, no video, where you can get your story out. But like you said, it is very important to speak your truth, because the only person that's getting hurt in that is you. You're carrying that on your soul.
Right. And I have to say that, having this tribe of senior women that just supported me through this was the coolest thing I've ever experienced in my life. I think, like what I told you, when seniors get, when we get older, we have to toss out some of this bullshit in our life. It really is not a great thing to hold on to all this. So I did this for myself. I also did it for this group of strong women that are going through life and having to defend themselves in so many ways. Through the aging process, through the medical process, whatever it is, you have to be really strong.
Definitely an uphill climb for women.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And the patriarchy that is in religion needs to stop. There needs to be more women ministers who can understand what women go through and what they need.
The problem is women won't submit to what the men want done. And that's why they don't want the women in there. They want the good old boys club in there, because boys will do what boys want.
And submission is a huge thing in that church.
It is, and it's so odd to me for me to think of it's the same in the legal system. You have a bunch of these men literally just kissing each other's asses.
Right.
And then they call us crazy.
Right.
And they say bad things about women.
Because we're calling them out on their...
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much for doing this. And I'm very proud of you for using your voice and standing up and telling the story, because it needs to be heard.
Well, thank you. I've watched you do a lot of things on podcast and just write stories and books and all that. It helps.
It does help. It really does help.
You can't let it bury inside, because it's going to come out at some point.
It felt terrible.
Yeah.
It felt terrible, and I feel so much lighter talking about all of this. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I get a little tears in my eyes.